In this video, I'd like to address two questions about the online version of managerial economics. First, I just want to talk about what this course is about, which is relevant both to the online version and just the course itself. Secondly, I'll talk specifically about how the online version works. This is an MBA level course in managerial economics. The course goal really is to provide you with an understanding of aspects of microeconomics that are relevant to managerial practice. The way I think about that is really through this set of pictures. We perceive information through the newspaper or other sources of information that we encounter, and the goal of the course is to give you a lens, a way of thinking about these data that we see that will make you more effective. At some vulgar level, we could just talk about making more money, but more generally, it's about being more efficient and being better able to accomplish whatever objectives we have. The course also teaches, or I guess has illustrations of way to accomplish the loftier ones, some specific tools related to pricing, the competitive environment, and more. Here's just a picture of a formula that maybe look mysterious now, but in a few weeks will be less mysterious and more useful. The course really has four broad topics. First is what I'd call the fundamentals, really supply and demand. So in the first 2 weeks of the course, we'll build our way to supply and demand. First by talking about consumer theory, demand, and the elasticity of demand. Then we'll talk about costs, scale, and market structure. Then we'll move and put supply and demand together to do supply and demand analysis of perfect competition. And this will also allow us to use supply and demand to analyze various kinds of interferences or interventions in markets like taxes and quotas on imports. From there, we'll move to the second major component of the course, a topic I would call pricing with market power. So the issue here is when you are one firm operating alone in a market, you face the market demand curve as your own demand curve. You now have some control over your pricing, and it allows for much more interesting strategies than a perfectly competitive market. Now, in addition to talking about just simply pricing with market power, we'll talk about really an array of sophisticated pricing strategies, including price discrimination, two-part tariffs, bundling, and a few others. So this is a fun part of the course that's about essentially ways to make more money. The third major topic in the course is oligopoly and strategic interaction. Here what we're thinking about is what happens in markets with a few major players, a few large firms. We'll make our way through some intermediate market structures called monopolistic competition and the model of dominant firms to talk directly about oligopolistic interaction via game theoretic models. So we'll talk about homogeneous goods markets as well as differentiated products markets. In that part of the course, we'll do a brief introduction to non-cooperative game theory. Then finally, we make it to a potpourri of other topics. One is risk, uncertainty, and insurance, which we'll spend a bit of time on. And then finally, we'll talk about externalities and their internalization in markets and other market failures, including public goods and asymmetric information. This is a theory course, but we try to tie everything. In fact, we do tie everything to real-world examples. So this is not a theory course for its own sake, but rather a set of theories that I think, and we think, are very useful for understanding real-world problems. And in every part of the course, we'll illustrate it and tie it down with real-world examples. How about the online version? So let's talk a little bit about what that's specifically about. First of all, the online version has the same content as the regular face-to-face version. It's the same learning expectations. That is, I have the same learning expectations, and you should have the same that you would. But there are different tools. So instead of lectures that are face-to-face, we have lectures that are slides with audio and that are online, of course, like the one you're viewing right now. These are put into chunks, 10 to 20 minutes each, followed by quizzes that are online at Moodle. In addition, the other course elements are weekly individual problem sets, weekly group problem sets that you'll do in groups of 4 or so, as well as a class forum at Moodle, which we'll use both for just getting clarification about, I'm confused about some question, and you might pose that question to the group. Other individuals might answer it, or I might answer it. I'll also post news articles to have discussion. Discussion about, well, what course concept helps us understand this phenomenon we're reading about this week. So two kinds of tasks at the forum. One is just clarification questions to get help, and a second is somewhat structured discussion where I'll post an article with a question and try to get you guys thinking and talking about that. Talking, I guess, via the forum. The course has two in-person proctored exams. So although it's an online course, the exams are administered at Carlson, at times described in the syllabus and at the website. Now, what are the benefits of online? Well, one is flexibility. You don't need to be here for 3 hours and 20 minutes into the evening. That's hard for everyone. It's hard to get here. It's hard to kind of sit here for 3 hours and 20 minutes when we might be doing something else. So we get much more flexibility over our schedules with the online version. That said, it's not a time saver. It's a time flexibilizer, if that were a word, but it's not really a time saver. If you don't have time to take the face-to-face version, you probably don't have time for the online version either, just because you'll need to spend the time working through the material and doing the homework and so forth. And it's not going to take much less time. But again, the particular times that you spend are much more flexible in the online version. As I say, because it's online, you have a lot more control over how you consume the lecture. That not only means like when you do it, but also you can rewind. In class, I find people are often reluctant to say, hey, can you explain that again? And then, hey, can you explain that yet again? Which sometimes is useful for some students because some topics can be confusing or hard. The beauty of online is that if there's something that you don't get the first time through, you can just play it again. You could do that as many times as you like. I hope you don't have to do it that many times, but you could if you wanted to. One thing to say, though, I keep talking about flexibility, and of course there is flexibility, but still the course has weekly requirements and weekly due dates just to keep you moving. So think about it as flexibility within the week. There isn't really flexibility across the term. We don't want to allow people to kind of do nothing till the last week because that's no way to learn. Let me talk a little bit about interaction in the online version. Of course, there's the sense in which you interact with the material, and that's not just words, but there's a meaningful sense because the online version has these quizzes after each mini lecture. So you can figure out, hey, am I getting it? And so that's kind of a useful feedback and a high frequency feedback loop as opposed to, say, submitting a problem set and then getting it back, a week later, so that 2 weeks after you did it, you know whether you understood it. This is quite nice because you can know whether you're understanding what you just saw a few minutes after you just saw it. We do have group problem sets, which are due weekly, and my plan for that is that you get together and meet via Google Hangout, talk with your fellow group members for about an hour, and submit a document together. These are not enormously hard problem sets, but they're interesting problems, and talking with each other about them is a great way to, I think, master material and have some fun. We'll have, as I mentioned, a discussion board where you can interact with each other, where you can post questions for me or for each other, as well as answers to questions that I'll pose. I also have online real-time office hours. Send me an email, and I'm really happy to set up a time to talk. I know that you tend to have busy schedules, so I think it's better if we do it via email, or that is via setting up a time, as opposed to me posting a particular time when you may or may not be able to meet me. I also very much encourage your groups to meet with me, as a group, or invite me to come to one of your hangouts to talk about your group problem set. I won't stay for the whole time, but just invite me for a few minutes just to say hi. Especially early in the course, I'd just very much like to meet everybody. Although this is online, I'm here. And I'm here and I'm interacting with you, and I'd like to actually have something more like that face-to-face experience where we see each other once in a while, so there's a human at the other end. Finally, I will create online review sessions that I'll post before the exams. I think people find those useful just as a way to get clarity about whether they've studied all the right stuff. Now, should I take the online version? Well, that is, should you take the online version? Well, a few things. Technical requirements. They're pretty minimal. You need a broadband connection. You need a Gmail account, which you have if you're a U of M student. You need that for the Google Hangouts that I think are useful for interacting with your groups and for interacting with me. A webcam is also quite useful. This doesn't seem like much of a requirement these days, as almost every computer has one. It's not absolutely useful, but it's just a little better for interaction if we can actually see each other. Now, another question to think about in the question of should I take the online version is a question of, well, what type of student are you? Being a little bit tech savvy helps, not so much because the technical requirements are complicated. I think they're not, but people who freeze up at technical challenges might find some challenges here or there, on the days when the internet is fritzy or something. I guess a deeper issue is whether you're able to sort of be a reflective learner and to absorb from the materials. Some people just prefer to be in class where they could, in principle, ask questions, even though many often don't. But think about what kind of student you are, and it could be that you should not be in the online version. I don't want to scare people out of it. I think it's working well for many people. But if you feel like you need more of a lifeline more frequently than you might get in the online version, then the face-to-face version is also an option. Email me if you have questions. There's my email address. You can also see it elsewhere at Moodle, but it's jwaldfog@umn.edu. Okay, if you're curious what it's going to be like to spend a semester with me online, this is just for fun, not required at all, but there are a few videos I haven't posted or listed at Moodle. A few videos of me talking about economics in kind of some fun contexts. One is a debate on capitalism at the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis. Another is a discussion of the economics of gift giving that I gave at the Royal Society for the Arts in London. And then finally, a really fun one was a debate I had with the rock star David Lowery. You may know him, or you probably recognize his music from Cracker and Camper Van Beethoven. And I debated him on the effects of new technologies on the music industry, because I do a lot of research on that topic. That debate was at Carlson a couple of years ago, and it's still kind of fun to watch. Well, I think so. I'll see you in the course. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are too.